All right, welcome back to our DNA. I'm Brandon Duplessis. We have Philip Price, of course, David Medina, and today a special guest, Stephanie Madera. Right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay. Stephanie, nice to meet you. Welcome to the show. You're officially one of our first guests in our show, so thank you for joining us.
Nice. Yeah, sorry, it cut off, but I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. So, David, you guys know each other, so why don't you give the intro and kind of tell us a little bit about your connection and background?
Yeah, so I know Steph through work. I think it'd be better if she actually explained what she does. I think she does a lot of cool stuff, and I figured she'd be perfect for this episode. So, Steph, let the audience know who you are and what you do.
Yes, of course. Thanks. So I am the host of Baddie B Mindset. I do online coaching for women, helping them become a better them spiritually, mentally, physically, glow up content, a lot of spiritual content, and just mindset stuff, subconscious mind things, helping us reprogram our old beliefs, healing. So I'm all about meditation, breath work, anything that has to do with just becoming your best self. That's what we're about.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of the baseline of what we want to try to do too, is focus on those types of things for people and ourselves, and have our own journey through the process, right? And we have different generations here too, because David's in his 20s, I'm in my early 40s, and Philip is in my 70s, right? In the 70s. So we have these generations, but yet all very like-minded in that mindset of growth. So what led you into that, Stephanie? What kind of got you there?
Yeah, I feel like the pandemic was like a blessing and kind of, a curse at the same time, because it forced us all to be home, and I had all this time in my hands. And I was obsessed with spirituality and mindset and subconscious reprogramming, that I was like, I need to let people know about manifestation and law of attraction and all this stuff. So that's kind of what started it. I was just doing it for fun, and then it started growing. But I didn't sell coaching or anything. Then people were emailing me saying, like, please coach me. How much would you charge? And that's how I got into coaching. And it just took off from there. I've been doing it. It's been fun.
That's awesome. So you weren't even planning on like coaching in that sense, but it organically ended up happening.
Yeah.
That's
just
awesome.
By putting out good content, being a bright light, and people are just like, how do I do this? Can you coach me? So it was fun.
Yeah. I like that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Steph, you had some questions for us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So David kind of gave me a little bit of background on your guys' success. And that's definitely something that a path that I want to take, is like, I want to obviously put out good content, but also get rewarded for it in a way where I don't have to be working a 9 to 5. I can do whatever I want from wherever I want. So I prepared some questions that I would want to ask a successful person, I guess. So my first one is kind of like the inner stuff. I'm very big on like beliefs. What mindset shift or belief upgrade made the biggest difference in your wealth journey, and how did you embody it before you had proof that it was working?
Wow, I think the shirt that you're wearing, Brandon, is what started my path.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Your attitude determines your altitude. That's right.
Yeah, I think that is a big, I've had great success in this life. And in my early 20s, I was telling David and Brandon, I had a bad attitude. And things would happen and I would overreact negatively. And when I learned to channel that in a different way, no matter what happens, see the good in it and keep moving forward. I think attitude is everything.
Yeah.
I really believe that spirit in any business that has a great attitude, and you get people with great attitudes, you can have tremendous success. If they all feed off each other's energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your clients and the people around you are attracted to that. Just like you, Steph, you put stuff out there, content, and we're being a bright light, and people gravitated towards that. because people are always going to gravitate towards that light or towards the, I always like the example that I saw during church one time, and the pastor put a bunch of dirty serving trays on the stage. Like the whole stage was full of trays that were old and rusty and dirty. And he had one tray that was golden and like shiny and just beautiful. And he said, I'm going to ask everyone here, if you had to choose one plate to eat off of, which one would you choose? And of course, the obvious answer was like this shiny, brand new, beautiful plate versus the old, rustic, ones. And it's the same idea in life. As you live clean and you live and you have that shine, people will naturally choose you and naturally come to you. So kind of like Philip's saying, is that attitude and that mindset, which you're already working on, Steph, right? You're already getting to that place.
She's in that space. She's teaching people how to change their attitude. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was that belief that other people have done it before me. And if I just continue to put in the work with the right mindset, I will accomplish that goal too. And I really saw value in myself without having to be validated by anybody else. I really saw value in what I was doing. I was disciplined in my process. So I knew over time, as long as I stuck to it and was positive and continued to be that person, that it would come. Just as scared as anybody else that it wouldn't, in the sense that like, you don't know, because right now maybe your bank account says 0 or whatever it may be, but you have to embody and believe that it will say something greater, and you will achieve that. And you go from that place every day, right? And you come from that mindset. So that definitely made the difference for me, is that confidence and belief that I would achieve those goals if I stuck to my plan.
Well, you got to believe it. You got to believe it. If you don't believe yourself, I grew up in the inner city in Oakland, and I went to great heights, but I always had the vision. You got to still have the vision and the attitude. And I think that's part of the successful journey. Vision and attitude. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a good point, because there's people with great attitudes, but they have no vision.
They have no vision. They don't see. And you meet a lot of people like that, Steph, that they don't see the bright, sunny days. They just see doom and gloom. I mean, and you try to shed light on them, and sometimes they still can't see it. You know what I mean? They don't change their mindset.
Yeah. Or they give you a reinforced thought that still sheds shadows over this idea. They're like, nope, I can't do it. And they reinforce some negative thought that, no matter what you try to do for that person, they're not going to achieve it, because you get out what you put in. Right. So
that's what
people need that healing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need healing. They've gone through too much. Maybe the trauma is affecting them. They're just negative all the time. Shoot, I know people at work. I know people outside in my life that just too negative. They're just always such a burden. Like I don't even know if we do work together, Steph and I, but I don't know if you know this person. I'm not going to say names, but this one guy I always run into in the bathroom. He always, the first thing he does after asking how you're doing, I always tell him, great, like I'm blessed. Even if I'm stressed out, I just say something like that just to keep that mindset. But whenever I ask him how he's doing, he's like, oh, I'm okay. Like the world's going to crap, but like, like I'm just surviving. And like, I'm like, dude, like I've even told him straight up, I'm like, dude, the world is crap because you make it crap right now. Like, yes, there's bad things going around, but the more you think like that, the more you're going to be affected by that. And I'm like, and he'll still give me something negative. He'll be like,
stop asking him
what. Have you seen this?
One of the things I never did in my business career is watch the news. I never did. And I made it a requirement for my managers not to watch the news, because I think that's where the seeds are planted. News only makes it if it's about bad news. They don't have a show where they're talking about all the great things that people do, and that news thing, it's just bad. They tell you everything negative.
Yeah. And that's where apparently the guy at your work, David, is watching the news quite a bit.
Yeah, he's watching it too much.
Well, misery loves company, right? So
yeah,
they look for it.
Yeah. So do you see that with your clients that they have to shift their mind to get to be a more positive place?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I also advise is like shut out the news. If there's someone maybe like they're obsessing over an ex, like block them, delete the app, do what you have to do to just like kind of close out the tabs that are unnecessary. Like the browsers that are all open, you can just close a lot of them out by just automating it. Like no news, no Instagram. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, you have to filter out the things that are kind of poisoning your mind, right?
Yeah.
And I actually, once David mentioned you, I started kind of looking at some of your stuff, and I was interested right off the bat because, I love that you gear your content towards women. We've talked about this before, but I believe men can heal men and women can heal women. Like women could heal women, men can heal men.
Yeah.
And obviously we're three men. We're here to help the men we could help. But what you talk about and what your mindset is, it's the same as ours, right? And you're offering that to women to make them more powerful, be themselves. I think it was something like be the woman I could look up to kind of thing. I saw a little quote there from you. Yeah. But one of the things I really like that you said in one of your posts was, and I've heard it before, and it's just something about it when you said it kind of clicked with me, was you have to release like an old mindset, or you have to release like an old feeling or thought so you can make room for the new, the improved you, right? And you said it's like trying to buy a new car and then you go to park it in the garage, but you still have your old car in the garage, right? And you need to make that room. So dive into that for me a little bit.
Yeah, so I mentioned law of attraction. There's so many other universal laws that work coherently with law of attraction. There's law of vibration, there's even like law of gravity, right? Like gravity. But one of the laws is law of vacuum. And that law states that whatever you're trying to call in on, it can't come in if you have something in the way. So like a lot of times women want their dream partner, but they won't get out of the toxic relationship they're in. Or someone they really want to start that TikTok, but they're so stressed and overwhelmed at work, they hate their life. So things like that is a perfect example of law of vacuum. Like you have to let go. And it's scary because it's so known and safe and comforting and familiar. And people don't like jumping into the unknown. But that's where the growth is. So definitely law of vacuum all the way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. That's stuff I actually got into while COVID was going on, and kind of the same mindset shift that Steph was talking about earlier is that, there were so many times where I was just home alone doing nothing, where I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? And I got into these things like The Secret. It's a book. I can't remember the author, even though it's somewhere right here. The Secret's all about manifestation and creating a better life and all that kind of stuff. So I got really into that.
The Secret is a great book, but I feel like it didn't touch on the law of action. It made it seem like you can sit in your room and visualize a Ferrari, and the Ferrari is going to appear.
Right.
So I feel like the action, they needed to mention law of action in that book because they didn't say like you have to put in the work. There is work you're going to have to do.
But you see, this is why they didn't do it though, because they're smart and they put it in the next book. So they're trying to make money off of us in reality.
There's more.
That's one of the books I have. I just haven't read it. That's literally the next book is the Law of Attraction.
Wow.
So that's funny you say that.
But you definitely have to have actions over words, right? Because actions over words over time.
You got to have action or you don't get any results. You got to have action.
How do you balance the work-play lifestyle, like working hard, bringing the time into what you want to grow, but also not lose time with family or jeopardize personal time in life?
Well,
that's a challenge, Brandon. You probably could talk about that right now.
I definitely could. I think, Philip, just from I know what we've talked about, you've had your lessons from this, right? Like, but I know one of the answers that Philip will give, so I won't even talk about it, but I'll just sprinkle it. You love what you do, right? Philip loves what he does. But what I'm really about balance. And like, I worked with David before, he knows me, and anyone that works around me appreciates that I work hard when I'm at work, and I put that focus on what I need to. But if I have to, I make my sacrifices for my family, in the sense of I will leave work at a certain time to go spend time with my kids or my wife. I will make them a priority just as much as my work is, to an extent, right? I gotta pay my bills, and I gotta work. So when I was growing up and as I was becoming successful, all my successful mentors, as they got older, they all wished they would have spent more time with their family. Without a question. They all made money. They were all very wealthy, but they wish they would have been at their kids' game, or, seen this happen. So as I've struggled with it, because we've talked about this in previous episodes, typically the person putting in the most time is going to be the most successful.
Yep.
But that's true for life too, right? So if you're putting in that time with your friends and family, you'll have more successful relationships.
Yes.
So success is a balance of not just how much money you make, but the people and the environment you create for yourself at the same time. And if you feel like one of those things are getting off balance, then you need to adjust your priorities, right? Kind of like you said with people, they want a relationship, but they won't get out of the toxic one they're in.
Right. They want a better one. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's kind of going back to that mindset of belief that, sometimes I need to take a step back and enjoy these moments with my family, so I can come back refreshed and renewed to perform well at a top level when I go to work. It's also including your family in with your pursuit, so they understand it and they know it. I talk to my family about what I'm doing and what my goals are, and that makes them feel like they're included. And it also allows them to support me in my goals. Even asking them ideas or what they think, So for me, I've done it by making it a priority. And, when I'm at home, I'm at home. When I'm at work, I'm at work, and I stay focused. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Well, I had to be a friend named Richard Gross said to me one time when I was buying my third dealership. He says, "So why are you doing it?" I says, "Well, because I want to." At the time, I had a certain type of airplane. I wanted a bigger, better one, right? He says, "That's just what your kids need. Bigger, better plane." He said, "Here's how life works." He said, "If you don't make time for them, they're not going to make time for you when you're an old man." And my kids, and at that moment, I had to change because I loved what I was doing. And so I would use the excuse that I need to be there because I enjoyed the high of selling cars, the everything about it.
Yeah.
But once I started making their games and going to their events a priority, my store did better with me not there because my employees saw that I was making the right choices as far as going. Because I would, I'd be getting ready to leave. I'd say, "Hey, I got to get out of here because Gary's got a basketball game, so I got to go." And business did better. Though I was telling myself I needed to be there because I wanted to be there because I loved it. But I had to have a friend pull my coattail and say, "Hey, this is how life works."
Reality check.
Yes. And you can get caught up in it. It's really hard because success is so intoxicating and it's exhilarating. But the richest people still have time to do other things. A lot of they hire good people, they run a great business, and they take care of their people. And they prioritize, and you don't just, because if you love what you're doing, you're going to want to be a part of it, and you get excited about it,
Especially when the success comes.
Yeah, well, the success is when you never had it and you grew up in the environment I grew up. I thought being the richest person was going to make me happy, but I'm here to tell you guys, money is great, but if you don't have peace in your heart, and my favorite player is Steph Curry of the Warriors, and I love what he says. He says, "I don't think about tomorrow. I don't think about yesterday. I just live in the moment. Whatever I'm doing, that's what I'm excited about. If I'm with my family, I'm in the moment." And I think a lot of people need to hear that nowadays because with the internet, everybody's being sold that you need to be rich to be happy. I've met some people that wasn't rich. It was some of the richest people I ever met
Yeah.
because they did a lot for society. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
they made money and they were comfortable, but their priority wasn't to be the richest person on earth. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, you know what? I'll touch up on that too. I've noticed that after talking to you guys more often, I mean, before that, I mean, Brandon, you and I would talk all the time at work when I was working with Gold, and I feel like I was very focused on the money, and like, don't get me wrong, I was doing my side businesses, doing that, making okay money there, and then as soon as I got that promotion, started making real money, and I think I lost kind of track of my life for a little bit there because of health and all this other stuff you guys know about, and I strayed away from my family for a little bit, and I think now because of you guys, actually, you guys kind of putting it in my head that I should get back on that. Like I've been able to be with my family more. Like I've been spending time with them. I'm getting to know more things about them because I'm trying a little bit harder now. And speaking of that, what's really cool about that is my godson was talking yesterday about how he wanted to do a lemonade stand, and I was like, oh, let's do it. Like this kid's struggling in school, like he doesn't want to pay attention. I told him, look, we'll make a deal. If you actually try in school and you do a little bit better, I'm going to do this with you this weekend, but you need to actually try. Like, I got to hear that you're reading. You got to do what you got to do because we're going to do this, bro. You're going to learn a few things and you're also going to make a little bit of money, but you got to hustle for it and you got to want it. And he said, okay, let's do it. Like, he was super hyped. So we're going to do a lemonade stand this Sunday and just make a bunch of lemonade, sell it on the street right here. And, you know, hopefully he gets a lesson out of that.
That's great, man.
That's awesome. That's dope. I love that is seeking over to you, David, and that you feel the difference because you do have to be intentional about it, right? It does have to be something that, you know, in that moment when you think, I don't want to, or maybe I don't, when you see that opportunity to do something with your godson, right? Is that you said your godson, right?
Yeah, my godson.
Right. Or my kids are like, look, Dad. I'm like, I put my phone down. I'm like, let me look. let me engage with them. So the fact that you did, that's awesome. Where's this lemonade stand going to be at? Just in case someone's watching.
Right in front of my house on Chatsworth. In Northridge, California.
We'll get some lemonade now.
We'll get you some lemonade. We'll come out there.
Yeah.
For you, Steph, because you're growing your business right now. You're following and all this. So do you find yourself kind of overloading into that aspect of your life, or do you feel balanced? How do you feel about yours?
I feel really balanced, but from 2020 to 2024 wasn't always like that. I was working, like, I kid you not, like I would wake up early and then go to bed at like 2 a.m. building landing pages and the copy and going back and forth with copywriters. And it wasn't until I had my grandpa who raised me, and he's like my dad. He passed last November, or not his last one, in 2024. Right? Okay. No, 2023.
Well, 2023. Okay.
Yeah. So he passed in 2023. And I feel like 2023 was really the year that I was like, none of this matters. Like I was so stressed that this landing page didn't work. I was so stressed that our launch failed. Like I had to launch the program, had Jiminy Crickets. And it was scary because I relied on it. I didn't have the job that I do now. That was my full income. So I was just like freaking out. And then my grandpa passed the following one. And I was like, why am I even crying over this? Like, none of this matters. This is what matters. Like, he's no longer. And so after that, I'm just like always on top of my grandma, driving her places, calling her appointments. Before it was like, really, wait, can you wait? I'm busy doing this. Now it's like I'll drop what I'm doing and I will literally just do what she asked me to do because I want to. I know that at the end of the day, that's what matters, not the link I was trying to fix. But yeah.
That's good.
I had to learn that the
I'm
hard
sorry to
way.
hear about that.
Oh no, you're good. Thank you, David.
Yeah. Well, it's, Dave, obviously, Philip, you've probably experienced more than we have on many fronts when it comes to losing people, right?
Right.
But as you age and you start to lose a parent or a grandparent or people that are close to you, it definitely puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
Well, money is, you got to have money because you got to live and feed your family and do all them wonderful things. But what is rich to you? Is it a lot of money that's in your bank account that you look at? I have more peace now, even though I'm not as wealthy as I was. And I don't look, it's sad to say this, but I don't look at money the same as I did the younger version of me. Because when you never had it, I grew up poor. And so when you grow up poor, you think, man, if I get rich, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world. Well,
right.
The problem is if you're not taking time to enjoy what you have. I had 6 houses. And my sons, who at the time, my youngest son says, well, Dad, you ought to rent them out. Oh, no, I don't want to rent them out because, no, I was so in love with my possessions that I just let them sit there and I was just holding it too close. And a friend of mine tried to give me some advice. His name is Bill Shack. He said, Phil, don't be in love with things. They're just things. He said, and he's way wealthier than I am and ever been. But he said, they're just things, man. Rent them out, lease them out, do whatever you got to do. But I was so possessive because I wanted to know I had it, and I didn't want people sitting on my couch. Just dumb reasons. And you can't be in love with things. You got to enjoy your things, but not be in love with it. Be in love with your family. Be in love with your kids. Be in love with things that matter. Not
hold on tight to those things.
Not your car or your house. Love your house because it's your home, but not just be obsessed with it. I think there's the message I try to tell anybody.
Great message.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Enjoy your stuff, but don't make it higher priority than your family.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it reminds me of go ahead, Stephanie.
I was just going to ask, so what does wealth mean to you now beyond the numbers?
It's happiness. It's health.
Health.
I got my friend Bill Shack that I told you about. He's probably worth, if I had to guess, a couple $100 million. And he had a stroke about maybe 5 years now. He's in his 80s now, but he's on a walker and everything. And even though he lives in a fabulous house, when I go visit him and everything, it just makes me appreciate everything I got because I'm 72 and thank God I can walk. I can, I'm healthy. And because when you see your friends that have, like I got another friend, Huxley Richardson, he's probably worth 40 mil. He had a stroke too, and I'm thinking, I ain't worth 40 mil again. I used to be worth something like that, but I'm not worth that. But I tell you what, I'm richer than they are. I got my health.
Mm-hmm. I got 2 feet, 2 hands.
I can walk, man.
Right.
They're on walkers and wheelchairs, and they're in my age group, and I just thank God for my health, and my family's all healthy. I got grandkids and kids, and so that's what's wealthy is. I think if we can get people not to put so much emphasis on wealth, and maybe get some Instagram things and YouTube things that even highlight the family,
right.
Because people they're obsessed with richness right now. Am I missing something? I mean, I'm the old guy in the room, so let me know if I'm missing something.
No, you're right.
Am I reading this right or am I wrong?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Money.
No, yeah.
Well, I think, wealth is, everyone's chasing the idea of wealth versus the wealth that comes from like the inner peace of yourself, right? And the happiness that you have. Because if you don't have that inner peace and you don't have that light inside of you, no matter how much money you have, you're always going to be trying to fill a hole that's never going to be able to be filled.
It's always empty. Let me tell you that. The hole is always empty. When money is your God, when money is your God, you'll always be empty. I don't care how big your bank account is. If I could live my life over, my attorney, his name is Steve McCarthy, and all the years I was in business owning the auto dealerships, he was my attorney. 15 years in the relationship, he said, Phil, I want to take you to the club. And I go, what club are you a member of, Steve? And he says, it's the Bohemian Grove. Well, it's a billionaire boys club. And I go, you're a member of the Grove? I said, Steve, you never talked about it or anything. He says, I says, well, how long you been a member? He says, well, my family's been a member for 125 years.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
That's well.
He said, Phil, you know where the deep water port is in Benicia, California? I go, yeah. My grandfather bought that in 1930 for 800 mil.
Wow.
I mean, 800,000. 800,000. Oh, really? He says, we have a 275-year lease on it. I said, Steve, you never talked about it. He says, that's the difference between old money and new money. And he bought me 5 Bibles trying to save me from being so obsessed with money. But he never talked about his family wealth. He never brought it up until 15 years in a relationship. And I went to the Grove, and it was an incredible experience. I mean, because they got high security and everything. I mean, you can't bring your cameras, you can't bring your phones, you can't do anything because they're all high-ranked people, politician. Every Republican president has been a member of the Grove. It's a billionaires boys club if you look it up. Yeah. And he never talked about it. And he said, oh, by the way, thanks for advertising on our radio station. I said, your radio station? He said, yeah, you on CAF and a bunch of other radio stations we had in that area. He says, my brother Craig runs those. He says, Phil, my dad was the Secretary of Communication for Ronald Reagan. Damn. I said, oh. And he didn't share that to me for 15 years. He lived such a normal life. I mean, I thought he was okay, comfortable, but not on that level.
Not like that.
Wow.
Not like that. Yeah.
Well, that's a sign of someone that maybe has a real peace in their life, happiness. Yes, he obviously had a very large amount of money, but he didn't seem like he lived his life about the money. Right?
You know what? I got to share it. This will summarize Steve McCarthy. My mom was a prayer warrior. She loved the Lord and she loved her Bible. When she would come to town and she would stay, he says, now, she called my mom Miss Von Seal. He said, when Miss Von Seal gets there, you got to let me know right away. They would get their Bible, come to the dealership and have Bible study. So he closed down his law practice.
Wow.
And come and do Bible study with my mom. And get mad if I don't call when she first gets in town.
He didn't care if you came over. He wanted your mom in that prayer.
Because she loved the Lord as much as he did.
Well, and I think that goes back to that true, like, sacrificing your time for your business to do the things that are really important, because the business will always be there. There's always a website you got to work on. There's always a client waiting for there's always more work you can do, right? But I read something recently that said to measure a good day for yourself, a positive day, is how close you could walk with the Lord, and how good of a day you can live in that moment, right? And how much better you can improve as a person or in your time with God and your family. So it's not necessarily, and it goes on to say, if you can feel these emotions, like, feel joy and feel empathy and feel even true sadness, and you could have those feelings in one day, and you could enjoy a relationship with God and your family, you've had a good day, type of thing. So yeah, I try to focus on that, even when I have those moments when someone else is maybe getting a bigger deal than I am, or maybe has something else. I remind myself that everyone has their cross to bear, right? Every blessing has its burden, and no matter how much money someone has, you don't really know inside their life and what it's like.
You see a lot of millionaires sitting at the end of the bar drinking. I hate to say that. A lot of guys that are wealthy, because they love money more than they love the Lord and everything else, they don't have that peace. And so they look how many guys that are wealthy that overdose. I mean, you would think somebody's got, if money was the most joyous thing you can have, why do so many rich people, Robin Williams, hung himself in his closet because he was an alcoholic and hung up on drugs? I mean, he left 70 million when he died. So if money makes you happy, why didn't he just go to the bank and get happy? The bank don't make you happy.
Why'd you go to the bank and get happy?
Make you happy.
That's funny.
But it's true, ain't it? I mean, if you got $1 million in the bank and you don't have someone in your life that you really care about, what do you got? Maybe you guys can answer that for me.
I don't know anymore.
No.
Nothing.
Nothing, right? I mean, there's people that would trade money for happiness, and they try to do it. I mean, but
yeah,
I think it like you said, the balance is the hard part, and that's going to be, because you guys are all younger than me, that's going to be your challenge in life, is how do you balance your time and your energy, and you have to prioritize what is important in your life.
And that's probably a lot of what I would imagine, do, Steph, is in helping people find that priority and how to focus on that. Is that true, or would you say that's?
Yeah, well, kind of like I mentioned earlier, we'll start to cut out the nonsense, because there's a lot of noise, like unnecessary noise out in the world, especially on social media. Like, you can just doom scroll for hours and it's just noise and noise. And so I'm big on like having boundaries. Like, there's now on your app where you can time it when to lock you out the app. So like you can tell the iPhone, like, stop my screen time at a certain time. And that's important so that they can focus on the things that's going to get them to the next level.
It's smart.
Wow. Yeah. That's pretty
habits too.
Habits too. But what do they have these phones that make you, I mean, even myself, you misplace your phone for 10 minutes and see, you act like you just lost everything in order. You be running around your house. I mean, am I the only one that does that? You guys?
Oh no, that's the sign how they got you hooked.
They got you hooked. You lose that phone. If any one of us misplace our phone, watch. I mean, I get, where did I last leave it? Did I, call my phone, call my phone. That commercial always gets me. Call my phone.
Yep.
Pure chaos.
Addicted to them.
It's true. Did you have other questions, Steph?
Yeah, I have one more. It's what's a common wealth building tip or piece of advice you completely disagree with, and why?
Say that again. I want to hear that one more time.
What's a common wealth building tip or piece of advice you completely disagree with, and why?
That's a good one. You got to think on that one.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
We'll have Noah edit it until we figure out an answer.
I mean, that's a good one.
Like,
in the elevator.
like,
I'm going to start watching your podcast, even though it's for women. I'm going to maybe hear some of the things, because she goes deep into the soul. How do you pull that one out? Wow.
Yeah, that's a good
Brandon,
question.
you had any ideas on that? Something?
So, for example, I've heard a lot of people say, like, don't save your money, but then some people will say save all your money. Kind of like,
you gotta save, but I say you gotta save, but you gotta also enjoy. I think it's still coming back to what we talked about before, balance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always have a story, because it's part of what I lived through. I met a customer that bought a truck from us when I owned Red Bluff Ford, and her and her husband sacrificed their whole career. He was a truck driver, saving money. And she was at my father-in-law's restaurant in the town, and she was at the bar, and she said, we made all these sacrifices. He got his retirement check, went into Bank of America, deposited, I think it was like $500,000 from his 401k. Comes out of the bank and has a massive heart attack and dies.
What?
And she's at the bar drinking, and she says, we didn't do anything because we were going to do it when we retired. They bought a big fifth wheel. They were going to travel around the country. They had all this money saved. And she says, we're never going to get to do it together. And she said, we didn't live. You got to live in the journey of life too. You can save that. I think the best advice I've seen from some of the people that talk about wealth management, save 50%, but 50% enjoy your life. If you make 100,000, try to save 50 of it for the year. Mm-hmm. But enjoy your life too, because you can't do a rewind of your life.
No.
Absolutely. And I had a buddy of mine who was always reminding me that if you put more in front of you, you're going to receive more, in the sense of, like, you buy yourself a nicer car. Now you got to make more money to afford that car, right? Yep. You buy yourself a house. The house payment I have now compared to what I had 15 years ago, or when I was in my 20s, and like the rents I was paying, I couldn't even imagine paying what I'm paying now 20 years ago. Right? Mm-hmm. But I've kind of leveled up, and like my family, one of my uncles, he just built this beautiful house. Like, it's just amazing. And part of me was like, man, I don't have that yet. Like, yes, my wife loves the infinity pools, looking over everything. My uncle got the infinity pool, and it's like the whole thing. And she's like, oh, look. And I'm like, yeah, look. But I remind myself, he's much older than I am, right? And in his late 60s, and he's built his way up. He didn't always have that house either, right? But as I've increased and been able to, instead of holding on so tightly where I'm saving, I've always taken a little bit of risk to put something a little heavier in front of me. So I was always upping myself, and as I had more, I had to produce more. So I do think it's good to go ahead and take care of yourself, enjoy things. But I think any extreme is too much, right? If you're all about work and you're too extreme, I know people that haven't taken a vacation in years, but are the best and the most successful in my company. But they haven't taken time off at all. And when they see me walk in sometimes at 9:30, because I spent time with my family and I did some other things, they're like, oh man, I wish I was more balanced like you were. Right. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I wish I had your paycheck last month too. But that's, that's the give and take. But yeah, one of the bad advices, let me think, since you guys brought up financial advisors, I'm not hating on financial advisors, but it's one thing it's not necessarily advice, but they always say to like put into your 401ks and put like save that way. There's so many other ways to save your money and grow your wealth outside of your just traditional bank 401k. But most people, especially as we first get into business or we get into a company, you get medical insurance, right? And you get 401k. And you're like, oh, cool, right? I'm an adult and I get these benefits now, and you get to save. But there's so many other ways. So don't limit yourself to just 401k retirement accounts. Look at the different ways you can invest and the different and look at different advisors, and don't just listen to one person, right? Because if a guy works for a bank at JP Morgan, he's only going to offer you what JP Morgan can offer you. Right. So his word is not everything. Well, my financial advisor told me this. Come on. Like,
how many times do they fail too? I mean, financial advisors,
do your own due diligence. Your financial advisor tells you something, listen to it, say, okay, thank you. And then do your own due diligence on that idea, or ask 5 other advisors and see what they think. And if you don't seek, like even with God, you have to seek him and try to build that relationship with him. If you're not trying to do that, which I wasn't trying to do that 10, 15 years ago, as much as I am now. And the more I try to seek him, the more blessings that kind of come to me and the better relationship I have with him. But if you don't seek better investment options, or you don't seek knowledge in what you're doing as you grow, you're not going to find it. Mm-hmm. So that would be my one thing. Don't get pigeoned into just like a 401k.
But don't get pigeoned to where you don't enjoy. I mean, take a vacation. You got to do that because you got to understand why you work. I mean, if you just look at the money, looking at the money in your bank account is not going to relax you. It's not going to put you on the beach in Maui or in Mexico, where you can just chill for a week. You got to have a balance. I think the gist of everything we talked about today, Steph, is how do you balance out life, business, and family? You really have to balance all of it. And that's going to be the challenge for you guys, because you're all younger than me. And I have regrets because I was so in love with money. I put it before God, and I put it before everything. And if I could change one thing about and do a do-over, my mom tried to save me, and I got to share this with you guys. My mom was up spending the summer with us and at our house, and she said, "Son, you just don't get it." And I go, "What do you mean, Mom? I just bought you a new house in Mississippi, and I did this and I did that." She said, "That's all you talk about is what you've done. You never give the glory to God. You don't give it to your family. You always talk about what you did." And she was trying to save me, but I was so in love with money, guys. And so when I say to you, have a balance, enjoy what you do, but don't make that who you are. Do you understand what I mean by that? Don't make your value be who you are, because my value was what I owned, not who I was. Does that make sense?
That's an ego thing. It's what do you say about ego? That's your favorite thing.
Ego, etching God out.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is. Ego is etching God out.
That's right. That's right.
Humble. And I think that's my kids say that to me all the time. They say, "Dad, you have changed so much." My daughter said to me one time, she said, "Dad, we'd be in the car with you and we just wanted to spend the day with you, and you'd be telling us about the new house you're getting ready to buy, and you're going to do this and do that."
Nothing they want to talk about.
Kids, we didn't care about that. We wanted to hang out with you. And I'm talking about stuff that didn't matter to him, instead of saying, "What do you want to do? What do you guys want to have fun doing today? Let's go do something." And that's why I said, live in the moment. Don't. I I hope I don't bore you with my conversation, but it's
never.
what I truly feel. Huh?
I think it's really boring. We could edit it out. Don't worry.
Noah.
No, I do not just play it. No, it's all good things.
I think this was a great subject matter.
Yeah.
A lot of people need to hear this nowadays because so many people are unhappy. And I think it's because they put money before they put everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things about what we're talking about that I've focused on for me, especially over this last year, is, and this comes from healing, is recognizing like that attachment to money or that attachment to the relationship or the things that make you maybe angry and negative and bring up those feelings. A lot of it is trauma or fear, and mostly my child. It's like my inner child who doesn't have money, who's holding on to it. My inner child who feels rejected or neglected. And when you have that little trigger that makes you, it reminds you of it, whatever that is, you go into that space and you react from that space without even knowing it. You don't recognize this. You know that you're right. You're thinking what you're thinking. You're feeling what you're feeling in that moment, and you respond out of that. And that's not the place you want to respond out of, right? Your child is holding on to those fears, those negativities, those doubts, and whatever it is that you don't believe in yourself, whatever it is. It's trust me, especially when you get in a relationship. I always quote my pastor: marriage is for growing up. When you're in a relationship, you grow up.
You do.
You have to.
The relationship is going to be rocky.
Right. And really, because through that, I've gotten closer to God, and that's where I've really grown up the most. But for me to recognize that when I'm feeling certain things, it's my child. When I'm feeling this stress, when I'm feeling that fear, and that's kind of helped me because the adult self of me tells me all the right things that helps motivate me to move on in the future, right? And that things are okay today. I am safe. I'm lucky to be alive. I have 2 legs and an arm. I have all these things that I'm blessed with and that I can enjoy today. I can breathe. My lungs work, So I have to remember that when I have these negative thoughts, that it's probably the inner child of myself feeling something, and that there's an adult and there's an answer that actually, if it was my best friend or someone else, that you would give them that advice. And that's, you have to kind of, they say, parent yourself, right?
Right.
And recognize, and self-awareness is hard for a lot of people.
Hard. And being truthful with yourself.
Mm-hmm. And seeing where that comes from. And that, especially like people who are stuck on money, they fear losing it. They fear this instability. And you'll hear them say, well, when I grew up, I didn't have this, or my mom did this, or my parents did that. And it's almost like that's the connection they have, and that's what they're holding on to, but that's their fear. That's their child. So I'm still working on this child thing.
Henry Ford says, whether you're 8 or 80 and you quit learning, you die.
You die.
You're on a path of living that you're going to be learning. I'm like a little kid, even at 72, when I learn something, I'd be like, oh, really? Oh, I get so excited about that because that lets me know I'm still alive and I'm still growing.
Keep growing.
You got to, I love that about what I've learned about life is to keep your mind open and keep learning, keep growing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. So Stephanie, because we're almost done time wise, but what is your goal? What is your like,
wow, that's good. Yes.
What do you want out of this and what you're doing in life for women right now?
Yeah, I feel like I just want to, I always ask myself, like when I'm 80 years old in a rocking chair, reflecting on my life, am I going to care about being shy about posting that reel? Am I going to care about what I thought people thought about me or my looks? Or no, I'm going to care about what I achieved. So I guess just leaving the world 1% better at least is my mission.
Amen.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And if you stick to that, Stephanie, you'll be sitting in that rocking chair happy because you got it's amazing when you're around somebody. There's a guy named Cliff Johnson. He's a banker out of L.A. He helped build the Girls and Boys Club in Compton. And everybody told him he couldn't get it done. He wasn't going to get enough people to donate to build it. And I was at a awards dinner for him in LA when I had the motorcycle shop in Torrance, California. And I teared up and I said, you know how many kids you just helped with that Boys and Girls Club? And he says, Phil, that's one of my crown jewels of life that I got. Everybody told me it would not happen. And they were honoring him because he put the money together. He got all the investors together to build the Girls and Boys Club in Watts.
That's awesome.
And that's wealth is not just money. It's what you do in between all of it.
Yeah. So, and like you said, it's that ability to sit in your rocking chair at 80 and look back and know you've helped people, and that that's why we even do this now, is because we just hope there's that one person who, even hearing that David got closer to his family or is working like that, I'm like, we did it, It's like, I'm already feeling happy.
World, but if we can save a few people from going down the wrong road, that's a win.
Yeah,
and we've all gone down the wrong road. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's funny you say that. I was just having dinner with Steph before this, and I was also telling them how you guys have humbled me. Like, even when I was hyping myself up. I was making all this money in like December, and that was my biggest month. And like, you guys humbled me. I don't remember what you said exactly, but I just remember you guys were kind of like, look, like money's not everything. Like, you gotta enjoy your life too. And as I see everything going steady downhill right now, just because it's been a weird few months, I've also been taking care of myself more. I've also been going to my family more, and that's been part of it. So I think you guys have been a lot of help for that. Thank you.
That's awesome, man. That's
we're all trying to touch people, and that's a beautiful thing that we're doing here. And Stephanie, you've been those questions, boy. If you ask those women those kind of questions, I'm sure because it gets your brain going when you go, how do I answer that? What do I say?
Yeah.
Well, we're only on episode, I think, 17 right now. So we're babies. We're infant stage. I can't wait to have Steph back on at like episode 117 and even just do a deep dive into Steph, right? And hear more about your story and your life and some of your ups and downs. And, I would love to have you back on again to go into a little more deep dive of you.
Yes. I really would love to do it again. She asked some great questions. Yes.
Stay becoming our best selves, I think, is the intention. I want to leave that on.
Amen. I like that.
Thank you.
That's a nice
Thank
way
you, Stephanie. We'll try to have Noah put something of yours on our link, so if anyone wants to find you, especially those young women wanting to be their baddie selves,
check out
and heal and grow, check it out. We'll have that put on there. But guys, thank you for everyone listening. Have a great day and even better tomorrow. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you.